Last night, a KCTV5 News investigation exposed a Leawood neurosurgeon with a long history of medical mistakes that maimed some of his patients for life.
So how is it possible for a doctor with Britt Borden's past to get licensed in Kansas? Chief Investigative Reporter Usher Qureshi is here with more on his 4-month investigation.
Brad and Karen, you might think that all doctors are judged by the same way by medical regulators across the country. Our investigation discovered it can change dramatically from state to state. Dr. Borden, Usher Qureshi with KCTV5 News. Can I ask you a couple questions, sir?
No, I don't have any comments.
I don't feel like he has conscience. He wasn't truthful with me, and we had to go on thinking that everything was, oh God.
These women are talking about Dr. Britt Borden, a neurosurgeon at the Headache and Pain Center in Leawood, and the subject of a 4-month-long KCTV5 News investigation. What are you running from, sir? Dr. Borden wouldn't say why he's moved from state to state, leaving a trail of malpractice lawsuits, a trail that finally led him here to Kansas. He left Janice Washburn behind in Virginia after damaging her vocal cords during an operation on her neck.
This is part of my problem, is I have hoarseness now.
How has that happened?
I had a laryngeal nerve damage due to the surgery.
He left Linda Guile behind in Washington State. Every day she has to catheterize herself and give herself an enema because Dr. Borden lost control of his surgical drill and cut nerves in her spine.
It changed our life forever because being intimate with my husband, I have no feelings whatsoever, and it's sad for both of us.
Can you tell us, how is it that you can drop a drill on a patient during spinal surgery? Sir? In the decade Borden has been practicing, he's been licensed in 8 states, been reprimanded, had his license suspended, and made inactive. He's paid out more than $2.5 million to settle 4 lawsuits, placing him in the top 1% of doctors in the entire country with that many payouts. Larry Buning is the executive director of the Kansas State Board of Healing Arts. As far as your average citizen is concerned, your average patient in Kansas, should they feel worried about going to Dr. Borden for a procedure?
I don't think so. I think the board has looked at him very, very closely, and closer probably than many physicians get looked at, and the board determined that a license was appropriate and no restrictions placed on it.
But in fact, when Dr. Borden first applied for his license in Kansas back in 2005, the board ordered his license be denied. In rejecting his application, the board cited his inability to practice with reasonable skill and safety to patients, being censured by another licensing agency, and the 4 adverse settlements against him. The board initially denied him his license based on the fact that he had not practiced for 2 years and for what they called evidence of professional incompetency. But Borden withdrew his application and after a 9-month fellowship in Illinois, reapplied. And the fact that he went through 9 months of training, that was enough to sort of reverse every sort of reason that the board had to deny it in 2005?
The information that he provided with regard to his conduct and how well he had performed in that 9-month period, I think was adequate to convince the board that there was no real competency issue involved.
I think that this is a warning signal to people in Kansas that there's something wrong with their medical board.
Dr. Sidney Wolf is with the Washington-based watchdog group Public Citizen and has studied medical regulations for 30 years.
Why should a subsequent state, Kansas, who actually rejected his application in the past, now decide to license him? And part of the answer may be that Kansas doesn't have standards as high as some of these other states.
According to Wolf, the Kansas board also takes far fewer serious actions against doctors than many other states. Between 2004 and 2006, it took 16 actions that resulted in revocation, suspension, probation, or surrender. That's 2.87 actions for every 1,000 doctors in Kansas. Compare that to Missouri, where the board took 5.43 actions for every 1,000 doctors. Do you think the board's soft on doctors?
No, I don't at all.
One place regulators are clearly not soft is Arizona. During the same period, the Arizona board took 5.12 actions per 1,000 doctors. Public Citizen considers it the gold standard for medical boards.
We look at our duty as protecting all the citizens of the U.S. from physicians.
Timothy Miller is the executive director of the Arizona Medical Board.
Our view is you don't want to go to a doctor who only meets the minimum standards.
And Miller says they pack their website with information consumers need to avoid doctors with shaky pasts. Not only can you look up a physician's license information, but their educational and training background, disciplinary actions, and malpractice payout history as well. Contrast that with Kansas.
We have limited information we can provide on our website.
You can find out when the board meets, who's on the board, but you're limited to 4 searches a month if you're trying to find out if a doctor is even licensed in Kansas.
And this is really the public's information, and they should have as much access and easy access to that information as possible.
Looking at all the kinds of information up on state medical board websites, out of a scale of 100, Kansas had a score of 44.
We provide the information that our records show. If we have other information that we can provide, we will do that. If a patient would contact our office, we will provide it.
Of course, there are 2 problems with that. First, most patients wouldn't know what to ask for. And second, the information is clearly more useful when it's obtained easily and quickly from a website like the one in Arizona. As for Larry Buning from the Kansas board, he says he gives little weight to the public citizen rankings.
Usher, any response tonight from the Headache and Pain Center?
Well, we called and emailed again today, and still we haven't gotten any response to the findings of our investigation. And on another note, the Headache and Pain Center, however, did withdraw all of its advertising from our station 3 weeks ago after we made our initial call to the center.
Nice to hear from Dr. Borden.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Usher. And we have